She was only a few minutes late because she was doing her makeup before leaving the house. But she didn't know that this slight delay would save her entire family's lives. Because just as she finished her makeup and was ready to go out with her family, she realized that the house door couldn't be opened no matter what. Initially, they thought it was a prank by some mischievous kid nearby, but it wasn't until they checked all the doors and windows in the house that they realized the situation wasn't that simple. Because all the exit routes were sealed as if they had been welded shut, and they couldn't be opened under any circumstances. Even more bizarre was that all electronic devices had completely lost their signals. Angered by this, Nick forcefully kicked the door. Just then, the children asked, "Dad, are you okay? Dad, is everything all right?" Nick never imagined that not only would the wooden door remain completely unscathed, but he himself would be sent flying and fall to the ground. Not believing this bizarre occurrence, he quickly grabbed a crowbar and smashed it straight into the glass. Although countless cracks appeared on the glass, the window still didn't open. Before they could comprehend anything, a mysterious liquid automatically began to heal the glass. In the end, no matter how much Nick punched and kicked, he couldn't move the doors and windows of the house at all. It felt as if a mysterious force had imprisoned them. While the family was totally confused and perplexed by this situation, they suddenly discovered that they weren't the only ones trapped. The surrounding neighbors had encountered the exact same situation. Helpless due to the loss of signals, their only hope now rested on a female neighbor who was jogging outside. Upon learning of the situation, the female neighbor immediately ran towards the police station. Everyone thought that they would finally be rescued now. While waiting for rescue, the neighbors also started discussing this sudden disaster with each other using pieces of paper. Some speculated that this was a new weapon developed by the military, but some neighbors also believed that aliens were the masterminds behind all this. However, the family didn't think too much about it at the time. They believed that as soon as the female neighbor returned with help, everything would be revealed. But they ended up waiting until midnight. Not only was there no sign of rescue, but even the female neighbor who went to seek help didn't return. Only now did Nick realize the severity of the situation. To escape and survive, he picked up a drill and started destroying the door lock. He broke several drill bits, yet he still couldn't succeed. Not only that, the hole he had managed to drill with great difficulty was also quickly filled and repaired by that mysterious liquid. Angered by this, Nick grabbed a sledgehammer and started smashing the wall. He completely smashed up the inside of the house, but he still couldn't break through that bizarre barrier. Even the underground area wasn't spared. The entire house was tightly encased by that liquid. This made Nick realize that this method was absolutely beyond the level of human technology. Fortunately, air could still come in, so they wouldn't die a slow death from oxygen deprivation. At this point, his wife thought that maybe if they just slept, everything would be fine the next day. Nick also felt this made sense, so they went back to their room to sleep. But when they woke up the next day, the pleasant surprise they imagined didn't happen. The doors and windows still wouldn't open no matter what. The couple now had to face reality and prepare for long-term house arrest. Realizing this, the family began taking inventory of the supplies in the house and started storing drinking water in containers. Because no one knew when the water and electricity would be cut off, they had to be prepared for the worst. Fortunately, the couple had a habit of stockpiling goods. If the food in the house was used according to a plan, sustaining themselves for 2 months wouldn't be a problem. Just like that, the family began a home life of frugality and rationing. When they were bored, they would play house. A week quickly passed by, but the doors and windows of the house still couldn't be opened. With no other options left, the couple had to collect the tomato seeds in the house to prepare for unexpected needs. But the neighbors opposite them weren't so lucky. All the food they had stored was already completely eaten. Even though Nick wanted to help, he was powerless to do so. He could only hope that rescue would arrive soon. During the following 2 weeks, the little girl suddenly made a shocking discovery. She noticed that whenever it rained outside, a bizarre shadow would always appear outside the house. But it seemed as though only she could see that shadow. Because of this, she informed her parents about it and stated that the creature didn't seem to be something from Earth. But Nick thought she was just seeing things out of boredom and had mistaken an animal for a mysterious creature. Hearing this, the girl didn't think much more about it either. As the days passed one by one, they also used seeds to grow various kinds of fruits and vegetables. But the surrounding neighbors were in a miserable state. Since the food in their houses had run out, Driven mad by hunger, they had started ruthlessly killing their own family members. To prevent this from leaving a psychological shadow on the kids, Nick had no choice but to take them back to their room. Witnessing this situation, the couple's hearts also sank heavily. However, that very night, a super rainstorm suddenly started outside. Just then, a figure frantically started banging on their house door. This person was none other than the female neighbor who had previously gone to seek help. But at this moment, the female neighbor was acting like a madwoman, screaming that there were monsters outside. She also said that everyone outside was dead and that no one would come to rescue them anymore. She begged Nick's family to open the door and let her in, but the family was completely unable to help her with this. Before they could even react, a terrifying event occurred. Witnessing this scene, the family was instantly scared out of their wits. They saw the female neighbor being slowly dragged into the deep darkness by a terrifying shadow. Just as they tried to get a clear look at what that creature looked like, a blinding light suddenly burst forth outside. By the time they opened their eyes again, the outside of the house had returned to its usual eerie silence. This scared Nick so much that he quickly stepped forward and pulled the curtain shut. Were there really terrifying monsters outside? Only now did the couple believe their daughter's words. It was very obvious that those monsters would only appear whenever it rained. And in order to prevent those monsters from discovering their family, the couple established a rule. Whenever the rain came, they had to pull the curtains tight. Over a month quickly passed by. The outside was still plagued by day after day of thunderstorm weather. Boredom also became their biggest enemy, but the neighbors opposite them were equally miserable. Under the double torment of hunger and boredom, their mental state was on the verge of collapse. Facing this kind of situation, Nick was also completely helpless. But unexpectedly, right at this moment, a loud crash came from inside the chimney. It turned out that the cover on top of the chimney had fallen down, and when they looked up through the chimney, they could see the outside. At this point, the young daughter suddenly had an idea that they could climb out through the chimney. But Nick pointed out that the top of the chimney was too narrow and fundamentally couldn't fit an adult. Because of this arduous task fell upon the daughter. Thus, Nick used the tools in the house to make a simple pulley device. And using the pulley, he hoisted his daughter up into the chimney. But just then, lightning suddenly flashed and thunder rolled outside. It looked like it was about to rain. Terrified by this, they quickly pulled their daughter back down from the chimney. However, right at that moment, a painful scream came from the room. It turned out that the dog, who had been with them for many years, had fallen seriously ill due to the prolonged confinement and boredom. Seeing that the dog was beyond saving, Nick had to ask his wife to take the children away. The wife understood what Nick intended to do. So she took the kids to the living room, turned the TV volume up to the maximum, and covered their ears so that Nick could put the dog out of its misery. Although it broke his heart, for the sake of his family's survival, Nick had no choice but to place the dog's body in the freezer. That day, a heavy rainstorm started outside again. To prevent the mysterious creature from coming to their door, Nick told his daughter to close the curtains. But just as the girl finished closing them, she suddenly remembered that there was still a potted plant left outside the window that she hadn't brought in. Disregarding her family's attempts to stop her, she forcefully opened the window to grab the plant. In the very next second, the bizarre creature outside spotted them. They instantly froze in terror, not daring to move a muscle, terrified that the monster would smash through the door in the next second. Fortunately, seeing no movement inside the house for a while, the monster turned and went elsewhere. The family barely managed to escape with their lives. In the blink of an eye, 3 months passed. By this time, they had completely run out of food and supplies. Faced with only a few meager bites of food every day, the daughter couldn't bear it anymore. She believed her parents were definitely hiding a lot of food and begged them to bring it out so she could have a full meal. Left with no choice, the couple had to open the house's refrigerator and storage cabinets. Only upon seeing the completely empty fridge and cabinets did the girl finally believe that they were truly out of food. Just as the family was engulfed in utter despair, Nick turned his head and suddenly noticed a wild wolf outside. This instantly gave him an idea on how to survive. He quickly rushed into the garage and, relying on his strong handy skills, used a skateboard and a rake to craft a simple animal trap. The last piece of dog meat from the fridge was used as bait on the trap. After finishing all this, Nick sent the trap outside through the chimney. Soon, some animals were attracted to it, but initially the trap couldn't catch the prey at all. Finally, after continuous improvements by Nick, prey began to get caught one after another. The family finally tasted a bit of meat after a long time. Having tasted success, Nick started making more traps of various sizes, based on the size of the prey. As more and more prey was transported into the house, their hope was reignited. At the same time, they decided they would no longer try to leave the house. So they pried open the floorboards and started growing fruits and vegetables right inside the house. However, after holding out for 3 months, the electricity was completely cut off. But for the family, this was still acceptable. After all, as long as they had food and water, they could continue to survive. Time passed quickly and 5 years went by. The fruits and vegetables inside the house grew more and more abundant, and the two children had also grown up. The outside world had undergone earth-shattering changes as well, with human traces slowly being erased by nature bit by bit. And during these 5 years, Nick guarded the window every day, responsible for hunting the animals outside to ensure his family always had meat to eat. The family thought their days would continue peacefully like this forever. But unexpectedly, on this day, the mysterious monster outside suddenly came to their door. What was even more terrifying was that the monster could actually control the rainwater to unlock and open their house door. This instantly scared the family out of their wits, and they quickly found hidden spots to take cover. At the same time, this was the first time they clearly saw the true face of the monster. This thing was absolutely not a creature from Earth. Fortunately, the monster didn't spot them and turned to go elsewhere. As the monster left, the house door was instantly locked dead again. But then, the wife suddenly noticed that the liquid dripping from the monster's body contained a massive amount of salt, just like seawater. This caused all of their fruits and vegetables to completely wither and die. While they were heartbroken over this, a scream from their daughter came from the kitchen. It turned out that the trap had caught a yellow weasel. Finding the little creature quite cute, the daughter immediately wanted to keep it as a pet, but she didn't expect that in the next second, the animal would bite her. Because this type of animal's mouth is full of bacteria, the girl quickly developed a persistent high fever. What was even worse was that there was no medicine left in the house. Thinking that his daughter wouldn't last long without medical treatment, Nick was burning with anxiety and couldn't care about anything else. Without a word, he went to the garage, got into the small car he hadn't sat in for 5 years, and planned to ram his way out to find medicine for his daughter. But even though he totaled the car, he still couldn't smash open the garage door, and he even accidentally gave himself a concussion from the impact. Just as the family was at a loss for what to do, Nick turned his head and suddenly noticed that the floor of the house had been cracked open by the impact. This instantly gave Nick a glimmer of hope for survival. Without hesitation, he grabbed a hammer and started frantically smashing the floorboards beneath his feet. Sure enough, after his fierce efforts, he successfully found a tunnel beneath the floor. And this was the town's main sewer, which ran through the entire community. Remembering that the neighbor across the street was a dentist, whose house would definitely have some antibiotics, Nick was ready to jump down without a second thought. But unfortunately, the sewer was too narrow. Thus, this mission could only be entrusted to his thin and small wife. Just like that, the wife proceeded along the pitch-black sewer. Thankfully, she reached the neighbor's house without any real danger. However, the neighbor's family had long since turned into a pile of white bones, and the house had been ruined by water leaks. Fortunately, she successfully found some expired antibiotics. But just as she was preparing to return, a heavy downpour suddenly started outside. This instantly made her panic, because whenever it rained outside, the terrifying, mysterious creature would appear. Forced with no other choice, the woman had to play hide-and-seek with the monster. Catching it off guard, she quickly fled in the direction of her home. But the monster wasn't going to let her off so easily. It followed her all the way into the sewer. In the nick of time, the woman crawled back into her house. Nick quickly smashed a nearby wall, burying the monster dead on the other end under the rubble. Afterward, they immediately fed the medicine to their daughter. Although the daughter's condition finally eased, after going through this ordeal, their location had already been exposed. The monster would eventually come knocking on their doors sooner or later, And now the only way to survive was to escape the exact moment the monster opened the door. Seeing that there was no way back, the family decided on a do-or-die battle. So without another word, they used their remaining supplies to build a trap capable of ensnaring the monster. After that, they just had to wait for the monster to show up. But strangely, the monster didn't come inside for a long time. Instead, the water pressure inside the house kept getting stronger and stronger. Before the family could even react, all the pipes suddenly burst and endless floodwaters poured into the house. Right at that moment, the monster also broke in. In this critical moment, the wife quickly lit a pre-prepared Molotov cocktail and threw it straight at the monster. However, this bit of damage wasn't enough to kill it. Seeing the water level rising higher and higher, the helpless family had no choice but to hide up in the attic first. Finally, working together, they pulled the trap switch. Just like that, the monster was tightly ensnared and bound by the trap. At the same time, the floor was also constantly collapsing. This instantly caused the water inside the house to drain out rapidly. After coming back to his senses, Nick pulled out a small knife and prepared to finish off the monster. But he was stopped by his daughter. "Dad, stop. If you kill it, we'll never get out. I told you guys a long time ago, the monster I saw looked very friendly. I think it's trying to communicate with us. This is their home, not ours." In the end, Nick still decided to spare its life and cut the bindings on its body. But he didn't expect that in the next second, to repay them for sparing its life, the monster actually controlled the rainwater to open the house door. Without overthinking it, the family quickly rushed outside. But who would have thought that the moment they stepped out, they would be surrounded by several other monsters? Just as the family thought they were doomed to die, the monster from earlier came out and stopped the others. Just like that, the monsters let them go, and the family managed to escape with their lives. Right at that moment, their house also plummeted into a massive sinkhole. After the rain passed and the sky cleared, the family quickly climbed onto the roof of a truck. Following their gaze, they saw that their original city, due to the continuous rain over these past few years, had already turned into a vast ocean. At the very end of the story, the family found a sailboat and embarked on a drifting life with no set destination. And with this, the movie comes to an end.